See where. There we have it. Then we do. No. It is here. Okay. Oh shit. See, and then we do this. Yes. Done. Yes. Okay, now it's time for maybe some fun stuff. Let's see, do I want this more? Okay, so the race have why Renault F1 team is it's Alpine, come on, descending into chaos again. So it will be some maybe fun stuff about Alpine. And oh yeah, it's no mining today. It's repairing tools. So let's see, we have 1, 2, then we have 3, 7 tools more to repair. So hey, let's watch what fun stuff the race have to say. Oh, need to have sound and
Renault's Formula 1 team warned the world it would have a tough start to 2024 when the new Alpine A524 was launched. But when team principal Bruno Famin said it was going to be difficult, even he can't have known just how bad it was going to get. Alpine drivers Esteban Ocon and Pierre Gasly locked out the back row in qualifying for the season opening Bahrain Grand Prix.
I mean, that can't be so fun start. The start being lost. So depressing.
Flying for the season opening Bahrain Grand Prix, and that was absolutely representative of the car's lack of pace. The team expected the race to be better, but it wasn't. The Alpines finished 17th and 18th, with the drivers behind Valtteri Bottas and Logan Sargent only there as a result of hitting problems in the race. The evidence is clear. Alpine is dead last. And to add to the sense of woe engulfing this team, news emerged on the day of the Bahrain Grand Prix that technical director Matt Harmon and head of aerodynamics Dirk de Beer had resigned. This has led to a restructure of the technical leadership of the team that we'll explain later in this video. They didn't quit.
I was thinking, could this year, maybe / next year, be the year when Williams is better than Alpine? That would be really funny.
Quit in a fury amid a terrible weekend, they resigned in the build-up to the season. Not that it was communicated to the team's staff as quickly as it should have been, many of whom first heard about it from the media. This all comes only 7 months after the last sudden upheaval in the Renault-owned team, when team principal Otmar Szafnauer and sporting director Alain Permain left amid disagreements with the ownership on the timeline for success. It's doubtful that even their most negative estimates will have put the team last at the start of this season. It's clear things have gone badly wrong. The question is, why? The Alpine A524 has a number of problems. First and foremost, it's overweight. There's talk of it being 11 kilos over the...
I mean, they have some colors they can remove. So maybe that will fix that.
700...
Maybe take away some sponsors.
98 kilo minimum. Pierre Gasly was asked about that after qualifying and said it's not as bad as you mentioned, but he did confirm there was a weight problem. However, if it's anywhere near 10 kilos, that's a significant penalty. The rule of thumb is that 10 kilos costs you 3 to 4 tenths of a second per lap, depending on the track configuration. The weight problem is primarily down to the monocoque failing the side impact test. The monocoque was designed with weight-saving measures incorporated. To put it simply, there are areas internally where it's understood to have empty space rather than being solid carbon fibre. The load case simulations said the design was strong enough, but apparently it failed the test emphatically. As a result, the monocoques have been reinforced, and that has come at a significant weight cost. The car is also weak in terms of traction, and Harman admitted there's a need for that to improve. The drivers have been complaining of mid-corner understeer, which will compound the traction problem if the car is under-rotated when the power is fed in with more steering lock than is ideal. Overall, the impression is of a car lacking in downforce, not just battling the front-end limitation that all teams struggle with in slow corners in particular under these ground effect rules, but also a deficit at the rear aerodynamically. That's the result of missed aero targets in the development of the car, and while Harman described it as a car that's broadly in line with expectations in terms of characteristics, it's a long way off where it needs to be in terms of performance. What's more, it still has a power unit deficit of around 15 brake horsepower, and while measures have been taken with this car to increase the efficiency in terms of how that power is used by cutting back on what are called parasitic losses created by the car, for example by modifying the exhaust, that weakness is here to stay. That's why Ocon and Gasly struggled so badly in Bahrain. The Alpine is, extraordinarily for a works team, the slowest car on the grid, and that's not going to change
So Williams is already better.
Quickly. The team and drivers are trying to present a business-as-usual front, admitting the car is underperforming, but talking of good things to come. Verman said after the race over social media that the positive is everyone is pushing, and he promised Alpine.
Yeah, but have they not been pushing for... Yeah, one... Oh, probably after 2006. So it's been... see, 4, 10, so 14, 18 years of trying to get it better.
Would do better in Saudi Arabia. The trouble is, by the time he spoke after the race, it had already emerged that Harman and De Beer had resigned. This news came as a shock to many Alpine staff and wasn't widely known even among the trackside team heading into the race. The race understands that Harman resigned once the chassis had completed the homologation process required to participate in testing. However, he stayed on to work trackside to oversee testing and the Bahrain Grand Prix and has worked on the formulation of the early season upgrade plan. De Beer tendered his resignation in the build-up to the Bahrain Grand Prix. Harman and De Beer are also understood to have taken these decisions purely for their own reasons, rather than being sacked and then these sackings being dressed up as resignations. The poor performance of the car will have been the primary reason for their decisions to quit, and to make clear how disappointing the progress is, Alpine made the smallest step in lap time of all 10 teams compared to Bahrain 2023, based on qualifying times. However, whether the resignations came as a result of frustration that Alpine doesn't have the resources and facilities needed to deliver the ambitious car that was touted as a change of concept, or were more about Harman and De Beer carrying the can for the poor performance, is unclear. In De Beer's case, it's clear the aero shortcomings of the car will have been a factor. De Beer has plenty of F1 experience, including spells with Williams and Ferrari, as well as an early one at Enstone. As head of aero, the responsibility for the downforce deficit ultimately falls on his shoulders. As technical director, Harman was ultimately responsible for the car and was the key decision maker when it came to projects such as the chassis. However, if the simulation tools available to evaluate the loads it would be subjected to were misleading, that hints again at problems with the available equipment and facilities. Their resignations meant Alpine had to act quickly to ensure the inevitable disruption was minimised.
So they could... one idea to fix their team is start working with Andretti, maybe.
Although the Alpine team was naive in imagining the news of Harman and De Beer resigning wouldn't get out in Bahrain, management did eventually inform team personnel. While some were eventually notified on race day, it wasn't until Monday after the race that there was a team-wide announcement, which both Harman and De Beer participated in. Alpine also announced what it calls a new three-pillared approach to its technical leadership. This follows the path taken by McLaren with its changes last year, appointing a trio of chassis technical directors. These are all internal promotions. Joe Burnell has been appointed Technical Director Engineering, with David Wheater, Technical Director Aerodynamics, and Kieran Pilbeam, Technical Director Performance. Power Unit Technical Director Eric Maignan, who is based at Viry-Châtillon in France, remains in place. All four report to Team Principal Bruno Firmin. Changes to the technical structure are understood to have been under consideration for some time, although it is possible Harman and De Beer have hastened that process by quitting. In its press release announcing the changes, Alpine stated that the decision comes after a period of disappointing results, where the team has fallen from finishing 4th in the 2022 championship to 6th in 2023, missing several key targets in its ambitions to reach the front of the grid. The new structure is logical, as McLaren has proved, and the 3 technical directors appointed are all very capable, but the question is whether or not Alpine can make it work. Despite the resignations of Harman and De Beer, there's still a team of hard-working, high-quality people working flat out to improve the Alpine A524. The question is, can it be made competitive?
No.
There are upgrades on the way, anticipated to appear after the early races. As Harman said at the start of the Bahrain Grand Prix weekend, the team has a plan for reducing the weight, although this is a long-term project rather than a quick fix. But could there be a McLaren 2023 style turnaround in store? Well, Ocon talked about this possibility, but there is a key difference between Alpine today and McLaren 12 months ago. While Alpine has done half of the job McLaren did by starting the season with an underperforming car, there's nothing to suggest it worked out a dramatic change of direction over the winter that would just take a little more time to bring to the track, as McLaren did. And that's the difficult bit. Alpine is only talking about gradual improvement. The one hope is that the much vaunted change in concept, which is focused on modifications to the way the suspension works, has unlocked significant...
That I would say, if Alpine start being worse than Williams, then it's maybe time to sell to Andretti.
More development potential, but the jury is still out on whether the team really has enough understanding of how the aerodynamics and the mechanical platforms interact. The other tiny ray of hope is that Bahrain has traditionally been a poor track for this team. It certainly plays against the car, given it's a heavily traction-dependent circuit that rewards power. In the high-speed S's from turns 5 to 7, the Alpine was probably at its best in Bahrain. That means it is expected to be slightly less terrible in Jeddah this weekend. As Harman says, definitive conclusions can't be drawn from Bahrain because of the track characteristics, but even caveated conclusions won't be good, and it's clear the car is far below even the lowest acceptable level for a works team. And even if it does climb the order, it's difficult to see Alpine even matching last year's underwhelming 6th place in the Constructors' Championship, never mind bettering it. After major changes were made mid-season last year with the departures of Zafnauer and Permain, and it's important to note that these changes happened just before Alpine switched its full development focus to the 2024 car, there was a fresh wave of optimism. The changes were made because of a fundamental disagreement between Zafnauer and Renault about how long it would take to reach the competitive targets. Presumably, those objectives did not include being at the back when the 2024 season got underway. This team has been blighted by long-term plans for success, starting with the original 5-year plan to become a title-challenging team when Renault bought the ailing GNI Capital-owned Lotus outfit ahead of 2016. That timeline was modified when it became clear the scale of the task was too big. It was replaced with a 100-race plan touted by then Alpine CEO Laurent Rossi in 2021. That too has been abandoned. Firmin now eschews such targets and talks instead of constant improvement in all areas. He has talked consistently about the gains made with the trackside operation since the middle of last year and wants that to translate to the factories at Enstone and Viry. That messaging is correct insofar as if a team like Alpine keeps improving in all areas, it will eventually get there. However, the on-track performance raises big questions about whether that intention is being delivered on. And this is why Renault's attitude matters. Ever since it returned to F1 as a team owner, the emphasis has been on efficiency and doing more with less. F1's cost cap, which limits not only operational spending but also capital expenditure, sets a limit on the cash that can be poured in. But there are still doubts about whether this team has the full resources it needs to keep improving its facilities. The endless cycle of optimism after getting to the front of the midfield, followed by regression, followed by changes, followed by optimism, followed by regression, followed by changes, is getting very old. At some point, you have to ask whether the problem isn't the revolving door of team leadership and technical departments and instead lies with the ownership, and that means Renault. Remember when Pat Fry quit Alpine last year to move to Williams? It was largely because he didn't feel the enthusiasm or drive to do better than 4th. After leaving Alpine for Aston Martin at the end of 2022, Fernando Alonso too suggested a lack of ambition within the organisation, saying they were happy with 4th. how Renault and the Alpine F1
Happy with fourth. Where are they now? They're sixth now. Or maybe seventh.
team react is a big test of how serious it is. There is optimism for 2026, and Verman claims the new power unit project is progressing well. But Alpine will need to be full steam ahead on that car at the start of January 2025, and doubts remain over whether its facilities are really up to producing a car that runs at the front, and that's where a works team needs to be. This latest chaos and the handling of it raises yet more questions about whether this team can ever realise its F1 ambitions, and if that's the case, you have to ask whether the time will soon come when Renault needs to sell up and ship out.
To Andretti, question mark, maybe? Okay, that was that. Yeah, that was something. Okay, that was not a lot, what I would say. I mean, they didn't even mention if Andretti should maybe buy them up or something. Man, boring. Well, sure, we can well continue with something else.
Grand Prix F1 driver rating.
The P1 with Matt and Tommy. Our F1 driver ratings for the 2024 Bahrain Grand Prix. Let's see how they rate the drivers.
And before we get into it, I do need to mention that there is one additional factor to this year's driver ratings, and that is your ratings. That's correct. So after every single race, we will post on social media and also on YouTube community, essentially a link for you to then go and grade every single driver, so you can give your 2 pennies. And then when you say that our ratings are washed and yours aren't, we'll then tell you that actually the majority was whatever it is out of 10.
Or
so
that you're wrong.
Look forward to that. It's going to be great. Right, let's start. And it's not with Logan Sargent, it's with Kevin Magnussen, because we are in reverse championship order. For teams, right? Is
For
that
teams, yeah.
But we'll start with Kevin Magnussen. Okay. And it's quite a high grade from me. He qualified 15th, started 15th, and finished 12th. So I'm going to go with a 7 out of 10 for Kevin Magnussen, because I think he had a rather good race for K-Mag, I would say. Whether that is the Haas genuinely being better in the race, we don't know just yet. The race pace did seem better than usual. So yeah, he gets a decent grade.
I've gone for a 7 out of 10 as well for K-Mag. If you'd have said that he would have finished 12th in the first race, I would not have believed you. But fair play Haas and fair play to Kevin Magnussen. Avoided the chaos at the start, and then it was just sort of, you were just waiting, really, that when he was up there in kind of 11th, 12th, you were just waiting for the usual Haas downfall where they can't look after their tyres. And it never happened.
And so before we move over to Nico Hulkenberg, we have the fan vote, in which 25% of you went for 8 out of 10. That was the majority decision for K-Mag. We've got the K-Mag hype train. Nico Hulkenberg now qualified 10th, started 10th, and finished 16th.
I have gone for a 3 out of 10 for Nico Hulkenberg, which may sound quite savage, but essentially he was the only driver that made a mistake in the whole Grand Prix. And what a mistake it was. All his qualifying heroics to get up into 10th, he just ruined his race from the very start, and it was completely his fault. So I've got to be quite harsh on him.
Certainly, I've gone for a 4 out of 10 for Nico Hulkenberg. It was a clumsy collision. It was quite unlucky. It was the tiniest of touches, and then round went Stroll. So I'm not going to be ridiculously harsh on him, but at the same time I do have to downgrade him due to causing that collision and also getting, I believe, a bit of damage from that as well, which he then had to pit for a new front wing, which changed his strategy and then just put him on the back foot, really, and then you just can't really do much from there, especially in a Haas. And the fans have given Nico Hulkenberg a 6 out of 10.
6?
That is wild.
Very generous.
So Guan Yu now qualified 17th.
Oh yeah, probably a lot of British people watching with the washed takes.
Started 17th and finished 11th. I am giving Zhou Guanyu a whopping 9 out of 10. I think it was a brilliant drive from Zhou. Again, had very little expectations for Stake F1 Team Kick Sauber. Zhou had a brilliant race. He gained, I think, 4 positions at the start and then had a really strong race. He pitted quite early and sort of stayed there. Had you had one of the top 5 teams conking out, Zhou Guanyu's getting points in his first race with Stake F1 Team Kick Sauber.
I've also gone for a 9 out of 10 for Zhou because, yeah, it's a great performance. It's really hard to say what more he could have done, really. His qualifying wasn't spectacular, but then he was 1/1000th of a second off his teammate Bottas, who we all know is good in qualifying, so they didn't have much pace in quali, but yeah, in the race he did a solid job. I thought he would drop back, but no, 11th place is realistically the best he could have possibly got.
And the fan vote gave an 8 out of 10 for Zhou Guanyu, so not as impressed as we were. Valtteri Bottas now qualified 16th, started 16th, and finished 19th.
Gone for a 5 out of 10 for Valtteri Bottas. You know, he wasn't having the greatest race, but it was unfortunate that he got, through no fault of his own, essentially stuck behind the chaos with Stroll and Hülkenberg and just allowed everyone to go around the outside of him. And then a throwback to his Monaco pit stop to make things even worse. But it's not really his fault, so I've gone straight down the middle with a 5.
It was faster than Monaco.
Yeah, I've gone for straight down the middle as well. It just really wasn't his day. Qualifying, as you say, was very, very close between him and his teammate, but still showcasing that there isn't much speed in that state car. And the fan vote also gave him a 5 out of 10 as well. So we're all in agreement. Look at that. So exciting. Yuki Tsunoda now.
Oh my god. He had a good race, but he ended the race. I mean, can you get less points because of that? I mean, he didn't do a bad race.
11th, started 11th and finished 14th. I've gone for a 6 out of 10 for Yuki Tsunoda because I think he was actually genuinely quite unlucky. But that just seems to be the running trend of Yuki Tsunoda and his time at AlphaTauri/RB, where he's running in the points and then he isn't anymore due to... And I think even he was surprised about his own strategy as well. And I think he said in the post-race interview, you know, I was running in a good place and then I just fell back. There is a slight bit of, obviously, taking into account the whole him and his teammate shenanigans that went on right at the end, which I don't even know really why that all happened, but it did.
I've also gone for a 6 out of 10 for Yuki Tsunoda. It's a shame because, yeah, he was on for a good result. And it's hard to work out what happened, and I think he's felt the same way, that what is going on, that he's running in a really good position, and then by the end of it, you know, it all goes wrong, and then all that stuff with Daniel Ricciardo just gets even worse for him, and that's going to be one interesting team dynamic for the rest of the year now.
And the fans gave Yuki Tsunoda a 5 out of 10, so not as impressed.
I probably did.
Daniel Ricciardo now qualified 14th, started 14th, finished 13th.
I've gone for a 5 out of 10. Yeah, a very disappointing qualifying session. I know RB were hyped to the hills by everyone. Even still, you think a more experienced driver would beat Yuki Tsunoda, but Tsunoda, you know, qualified 3 places higher, and I think Danny Rick drove a worse race than Tsunoda as well, and was fortunate that he got the team orders, and then all that chaos happened. Not the greatest start with Daniel Ricciardo.
I have gone for a 6 out of 10 for Daniel Ricciardo. I don't feel like you can particularly separate the two. I know Yuki fell back a little bit at the end, but Danny Rick did catch up to him on a slightly different strategy. So yeah, I don't think there was much between them. Obviously qualifying went Yuki's way, but in the end Danny Rick did better in the race. So the fans gave Danny Rick a 5 out of 10 as well. So both 5s for the RB. Logan Sargent now qualified 18th, started 18th and finished 20th.
Well, yeah, I would say probably 5 also.
5 out of 10 for Logan Sargent. I don't think he was having the worst race of his life until the steering wheel issue happened. But yeah, it was just straight down the middle. After that, obviously he's completely out of the running. He's miles behind everybody else. But yeah, 5 out of 10.
I've also gone for a 5 out of 10. I found him quite difficult to grade, actually, because qualifying... I was very disappointed in qualifying because he didn't look like he was going to have those struggles again. And 18th when Albon was up in 13th is not great indeed. But when he was actually running before he had the issue that wasn't his fault, he was actually doing a very decent job.
The fans gave Logan a 4 out of 10. Alex Albon now qualified 13th, started 13th and finished 15th.
Gone for a 6 out of 10 for Alex Albon. I think it was just a quiet race for Albon after last year's brilliance that he had quite a lot of the time, and it kind of felt more like a normal.
The Covenant is
Halo!
here. Light him up! Tell the truth just once.
You fight because you are a soldier.
Man, the show could have been so good, but they didn't want to make a good show.
Upp till 50% rabatt och njut av fri leverans. Handla idag på Belliani.se.
Williams of old, where he's done a decent job, but can't really, and he wasn't anywhere near the points in the end.
No, completely agree. I've gone for a 6 out of 10 for Alex as well. The car just wasn't there. I think Williams were quite open about that as well, in the fact that they didn't expect much from Bahrain. Alex had a great start, climbing up to P11 at the beginning, but just fell back. And also I think that they were struggling with some high power unit temperatures. The fans also went for a 6 out of 10 for Alex Albon. Esteban Ocon now. Qualified 19th, started 19th, finished 17th. I am locking in a 4 out of 10 for Esteban Ocon. My goodness gracious me, it is falling apart at the seams for Alpine at the moment. I can't give them any higher. It's like, I know the car's rubbish, but they were so rubbish. Like, there was nothing there. Anytime they moved even slightly forward, they were just getting overtaken again. Like when they were being overtaken by the RBs, you're like, what is happening here? But yeah, Ocon's race, did we really see him?
No. I've gone for a 5 out of 10 for Esteban Ocon. I've given him the benefit of the doubt that the car is absolutely
so 5 for
woeful.
Gasly also.
It was just a very quiet race at the back from Ocon, and I cannot believe that theory that Alpine were going to be the worst team has actually come true in Bahrain, and it'd be
at least for
fascinating to see if it will continue.
The
and based
summer
on the
break
fact
will
that they're
change
going
everything.
through employees incredibly quickly and firing everyone.
So the fan vote was for a 5 out of 10 for Esteban Ocon as well. Pierre Gasly qualified 20th, started 20th, finished 18th.
Gone for a 4 out of 10 for Pierre Gasly. Literally just one less than Ocon because he finished behind him. I know it was extremely close. I think that was probably the fact that he did that soft tyre gamble at the end. But yeah, Gasly was the only just but the worst of the two Alpines. And you can only measure it against your teammate, really.
Very true. Yeah, I've gone for a 4 out of 10 as well because it was very, very marginal between the pair of them. But yeah, I would have liked to have seen one more lap to see if Gasly would have sent a dive bomb on Ocon into turn 1 and potentially both of them lost their wheels or something because, yeah, that's not like the first time that has happened.
Not the first time, but they will this time not lose anything.
The fan vote was a 5 out of 10 as well for Pierre Gasly. Lance Stroll qualified 12th, started 12th, finished 10th. But I don't think that really tells the whole story of Lance Stroll's race after being punted by Hülkenberg, spun around and was essentially last. I've given him an 8 out of 10 because I think it was a very lovely comeback drive for Lance. Yeah, I think he can be very happy with his drive.
No,
it's one of those Lance things where you blink and you're like, oh wow, he scored a point. That's amazing. So yeah, I think it needs to be commended for that with an 8 out of 10.
I've gone for a 7 out of 10 for Lance Stroll. Close to an 8, but I think qualifying down in 12th, that's the thing that still sadly let him down, which is a long way behind Fernando Alonso. And of course, he caught up to him in the race. If he carries on doing this sort of thing, then we won't need to have that constant conversation we did last year about why he's still in that seat, because it was a solid and decent drive.
The fan vote was an...
Oh, let's see. There's 3 points. What? Who's missing? Red Bull, Ferrari, Mercedes, McLaren, Aston Martin. Oh. Visa Cash App RB and see if I... See if you pick this one. Hey, no. You can see there's nothing for Visa Cash App or Stake Sauber. Interesting. So Red Bull 44 points, 1 races, 1, 2. Oh my god. Podiums. Ferrari with 21 points and 1 podium. Mercedes 16 points. McLaren 12 points. So this I hope McLaren will just get more points. It should be Red Bull, Ferrari, McLaren, not Mercedes. And Williams should be more up. But yeah, back to this, I think. Yes.
8 out of 10 for Lance Stroll. Fernando Alonso now qualified 6th, started 6th, finished 9th.
Gone for a 7 out of 10 for Fernando Alonso, same as Stroll. You know, in the race, he's dropped back. It seems Aston Martin are the worst of the best, if that makes sense. Yeah, it could be, annoyingly, I hope I'm wrong, but a bit of a lonely season for Aston Martin if they are in this man's land behind McLaren. Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed not. For Fernando Alonso, I have gone for a 7 out of 10. And some people are like, oh, maybe thinking, well, how have you gone for Lance for an 8 and Fernando for a 7? But I feel as though some of the ratings, you sort of have the expectation of what that driver can do. And Fernando, you know, there wasn't really anything special, and Lance did a great comeback drive. But yeah, Fernando, he just felt like a bit of a sitting duck, which is a shame. It's still a decent enough job. We'll see. Maybe Saudi Arabia will be better. The fan vote gave him a 7 out of 10 as well. So look at that. Wow, such agreement. Oscar Piastri qualified 8th, started 8th, finished 8th. Just loves an 8th. I've gone for a 7 though, unfortunately, for Oscar Piastri. He was, I think, better in the race than perhaps we've come to know in comparison to his teammate. He was aggressive at the start, as he always is. Tried a little move on Lando. Was a bit cheeky, like that from Oscar. He's not scared to make a move on lap 1. But yeah, again, it was quite a quiet race for the McLarens, I would say, but a quietly good race.
I've also...
No! The fuck is this?
Gone for a 7 out of 10 for Oscar Piastri. It was a good solid drive, not hugely spectacular, but I think he's done a good job alongside Lando, who I think towards the end of the season Lando was a lot stronger in race pace, and it didn't look like it was that usual deficit, which Oscar can sort of be very pleased about if that's going to be a trend, if he puts in some crazy heroics again where he gets some amazing qualifying results. He could be in for some amazing performances, but McLaren just weren't there. But they've even said that it's not.
But they will.
Not their favourite circuit.
The fans gave Oscar Piastri a 7 out of 10 as well. Lando Norris now qualified 7th, started 7th, finished 6th.
I have gone for a 7 out of 10 as well for Lando Norris, same as his teammate. They were very closely matched, same in qualifying. I think I expected more from Lando. I think he even said it himself. Bahrain doesn't suit them a lot, but we've seen how good he is, and I think he maybe left a bit on the table in qualifying. Should have at least been ahead of Fernando Alonso. So gone for a 7 out of 10.
I've also gone for a 7 out of 10 for Lando. A quiet, good race for McLaren, and that's why it's a 7. He got past Alonso early on, and then later again as well, and then ended up finishing P6. So I think they can build from that. The fans also get...
Yeah, I mean, I would say, hopefully, this year will be the first year Lando Norris get a win.
Gave Lando a 7 out of 10. Almost forgot to say that part. Carlos Sainz now qualified 4th, started 4th, finished 3rd. I've gone for a 9 out of 10 for Carlos Sainz. I will not hear any disrespect about Carlos's race. It's hard to compare him with Charles Leclerc because Charles was running a brake problem, but what we can see is Carlos's moves that he made. They were decisive. They were of a man that does not care anymore in terms of sending it. Just seems to be the way when a contract comes up or it expires or they don't have a seat, drivers just get a little bit more tenacious, and I felt that with Carlos.
I've also gone for a 9 out of 10. The actual race itself is probably a 10 out of 10 performance, but of course he's qualified behind his teammate. But in the race, a brilliant job to get through the field. His overtakes were nice. He was aggressive, kind of aggressive, but in a sort of fair way, if you like.
The fan vote for Carlos was also a 9 out of 10. Charles Leclerc now qualified 2nd, started 2nd, finished 4th.
I've gone for an 8 out of 10. I was going to give him a 7, but reading into more of the brake problems that he had, it did look quite dramatic. So to actually bring the car home in 4th place is a decent result. And I think what might have been, maybe he could have fought Perez for P2.
I've gone for an 8 out of 10 as well for Charles Leclerc. I think he deserves at least that because of the problems he was managing. So yeah, a decent drive from Charles. And please, I just want to see his car not have these problems. You know, just day.
I mean, hopefully Monaco and Baku, maybe the race. Let's see. In 1, 2, 3 days. He can maybe in Saudi Arabia win a race, maybe. At least he will get pole, and also podium. So Charles Leclerc's time to shine will happen.
Lap 1, come on, like please give me a break. The fans gave Charles Leclerc a 7 out of 10. Disgusting. George Russell now qualified 3rd, started 3rd, finished 5th. I've gone for an 8 out of 10 for George Russell. I think it was an impressive weekend for him. Qualifying was brilliant to get up there in P3.
Oh, yeah, George Russell was better than Hamilton. Oh my God, Hamilton is washed.
And then he was managing issues similarly to Charles Leclerc in the sense of things that were holding him back. He was overheating, I believe, with his car and genuinely just seemed like he was really struggling for pace in the race, but still managed to finish 5th, which is a decent start to the season. And
better than Lewis Hamilton. You need to mention that.
I think George had a good weekend, so 8 out of 10.
George Russell is another driver I was going to give a 7 out of 10, but it looks like he was managing a lot of problems, so I've gone for an 8 out of 10. It would have been good to see what George could have done actually in the race because he qualified superbly well, and it's no mean feat to be so far ahead of Hamilton, although that being said it was 2 tenths, but a lot of
what could Lewis Hamilton get? Maybe 6
spots on the grid to get up into P3, and did a very good job as well. So yeah,
the fans gave George Russell a 7 out of 10.
Charles Leclerc gets 7.
Lewis Hamilton qualified 9th, started 9th, finished 7th.
Gone for a 6 out of 10. Yeah, disappointing qualifying. I expected him to be better. I know he had that seat issue. I've not heard too much more of how extreme that was. In terms of qualifying, I expected more from him, and then to not make as much progress as I thought he was going to was a bit disappointing, because normally it's the race where Lewis comes alive. When you know how good he is in the race, I personally found it a bit of a disappointing race from Lewis Hamilton.
I have gone for a 7 out of 10 for Lewis Hamilton. It is close between a 6 and a 7, and he was just stuck in that train for much longer than I anticipated or thought that Hamilton would, but then showed some strong pace towards the end, and yeah, I think a 7 out of 10 is reasonably fair for him. The fans gave him a 6 out of 10. Sergio Perez qualified 5th, started 5th, finished 2nd.
9.
I have gone for an 8 out of 10 for Sergio Perez. Not the greatest of qualifyings ever,
He finished
but
2.
still in the mix. Made it through
For
to
the
Q3, got himself in 5th place. That's you can build from that, right? And he did. He finished 2nd. He's on the podium. It's a Red Bull 1-2. Nowhere near Max, but we're not expecting that. That's fine.
I've gone for a 7 out of 10 for Sergio Perez.
Slander!
I know. Oh,
Hate speech. I mean, someone is on just Verstappen's side.
they're all so difficult to
Hating
rate
on
because
the
now,
Perez.
Bro finished
now I'm-
2nd. Come on, give him an 8.
I also want to change my Lewis Hamilton grade because I forgot he finished only 4 seconds behind Russell.
Oh.
Editor, sorry. Hamilton 7.
7.
And
No,
Perez,
6. He's washed.
I will give him the benefit of the doubt and he can have an 8 for now. It's
He
so
should have an
difficult
8.
because no one else finished 22 seconds behind their teammate, but then he's doing everything you ask of him, so it's such a difficult one to balance for Perez because he's in such a unique position that no other driver is, and until it happens, if it happens, we'll never know how anyone else will do in that situation because, and you can argue that Albon and Gasly were also 20 seconds every race off Max, so yeah, we'll go for an 8 out of 10 because...
I mean, if he would be equally slow against Lewis Hamilton, wouldn't that also be... Is Lewis really good or Perez really bad? I mean,
because he has finished 2nd on the road, which is what he is there to do, essentially.
Mexican fans, you can breathe a sigh of relief. Tommy's given him an 8 out of 10. And the fans also gave Sergio Perez an 8 out of 10. Finally, Max Verstappen. Qualified first, started first, finished first.
1.
I wanted this year to basically be a bit more strict with
Should get
grading, so
1.
like 10 out of 10 would have to be the perfect race because otherwise Max is going to get 10 out of 10 every week. So I've gone for a 10 out of 10 because he had the perfect weekend. I know the Red Bull's really good, but how can you give anything less than 10 when he's absolutely smashed the field, he's got pole, he's led every single lap.
And for some reason, he will go to Mercedes. At least what these people think. It could, yeah, sure, everything can
He's got
happen.
fastest lap. You just can't give him anything other than a...
I mean, he can also John Haas. He can
10.
He's just Max Verstappen, isn't he? I've also gone for a 10 out of 10. Max
Going from
just starting 2024 as he means to go on. And on he will go, I predict, with... yeah, it was an absolute masterclass from Max. The way he pulled away from the field so quickly was a man that does not care about headlines or entertainment or anything like that.
Sally's dad doesn't stop talking.
He's here to win 24 races this year, and let's see if he can do it. And the fans also gave him a 10, and it is the most unanimous vote of anyone. I think the highest in terms of majority was maybe like 40-45% for all the other drivers. 88% of people have voted for Max Verstappen and a 10 out of 10. Finally, who is our P1? Well, there's only one 10 out of 10 that I've given, and same for you, Tommy.
Max Verstappen.
So it is
Hype.
Max Verstappen,
Super
isn't
Max.
it?
Of course, yeah, the only one that got a 10 out of 10, but shout out for Zhou Guanyu and Carlos Sainz, who were the only others that got 9s.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Charles Leclerc should have got a 9 if he didn't have the brake problems. So let's see. Oh yeah, you 9. Man, he's high up. Man, Lando Norris not perhaps he could also have a good race. Hopefully next race will give them a better race. Fernando Alonso probably will not get a better race than he maybe had this race. Williams hopefully get a better race. And Visa Cash App RB F1 team McLaren eller Alpine.
Zhou Guanyu and Carlos Sainz, who were the only others that got 9s.
Absolutely. And that is it. The end of the first episode of the 2024 season for Formula One driver ratings. Thank you, everybody, once and for all. Once and for all, that's crazy. That sounds like we're never doing an episode ever again. One and all. I don't know.
Driver
Either
ratings
or.
that much.
Yeah, God, love it. Yeah, one episode, done and dusted, in the locker. See you next year. But yeah, P1 Live Show tickets are still available, so go and check them out. We'd love to see you in the middle of April. And that is it. Lots of love. Take care. Bye.
No bye.
Shut up!
Goodbye.
Just 23 times to give Max Verstappen 10 points. Isn't that beautiful? Let's see. Anything more fun? Was that really it? Ah, quite. I mean, I did that. I mean, let's see. I have... Oh shit. 3 pickaxes left to fix. God damn it. Is it really nothing more fun to watch? Let's see. Let's see, do Formula 1 have anything fun to watch? I mean, sure. Let's see what F1 Nation have to say. Oh my god, the most British bias stuff you can watch.
Som inte bara tar bort mjäll, men också...
Oh, hype. We need to have... It's great at time.
Så förebygger.
Sa du förebygger mjäll?
Ja, precis.
Men då behövs väl inte du, va?
Wait. He's not needed?
Ha inte mjäll. Förebygg det istället.
Du, mitt kontrakt, det är vattentätt, va?
Then we have... The fuck was that? Holy shit. I mean, here we have a nice wholesome ad before, and then we have fucking most... Yeah. Wow. Okay, let's see.
What a win
F1
for
Nation.
Max Verstappen, and what a recovery for Sergio Perez, and what a podium for Carlos Sainz. Now we know who's quick, who's close, and who's got work to do for the next race in Saudi Arabia, which is...
Wait. Do we really need to have...
a
Sure.
totally different track where things could be very different. Welcome everyone to F1 Nation.
The Dutch driver continues his domination of Formula One. New year, but no new...
And all the British fans are so happy. Or the loose fans. I mean, that's the interesting thing. People that are Lewis Hamilton fans, / Mercedes fans, or British fans. What do you do when Hamilton goes to Ferrari? Do you still support him? Do you still support the team? I know, so many questions.
Winner, Max Verstappen, still the driver to beat. Max Verstappen wins the season opener. He takes the Bahrain Grand Prix.
That was simply lovely. What a great race. Great start to the year, guys.
Lovely.
1-2 as well, so absolutely fantastic.
Hi there and welcome to the paddock in Bahrain. It's me, Tom Clarkson, the 1996 World Champion Damon Hill.
I was glad you said you Damon Hill because I thought you were claiming you were 1996.
Man, yeah. That intro. trying to make him
world champion, which you're not, obviously.
Chance would be a fine thing. And joining us in a little while, we have Argentine journalist Juan Fosaroli from ESPN Latin America as well. But
let's see. Do this? No, no. You can't see if the topics they talk about.
Damon and I are sat at Red Bull Racing after what has been a hugely dominant weekend, Damon. How surprised were you?
Well, I think I was a little bit surprised. I mean, when I saw the testing, I thought Red Bull were going to be dominant. Then people closed up, and it did look like it was going to be quite tight.
Yeah, close up. And then we saw the race. It was not close up.
Qualifying was reasonably close. In actual fact, an odd thing happened. Max was on pole position, even though he wasn't the fastest person in qualifying, which is Charles Leclerc. But that was in Q2, not in Q3, which is the one that counts.
Hang on, we're not comparing apples and apples, though, are we? In that the conditions changed, the wind changed for Q3.
Yeah,
and
but
things,
in the hour of qualifying, the quickest car was actually Charles Leclerc. But he had a mare of a race. But we'll get into that probably.
Get pole position and be in not the fastest.
At some point.
And Juan,
so good
straight from, I guess, the TV interview pen, has joined us now. Were you surprised by Red Bull's dominance?
Hello, Tom. Hello, Damon. I cannot say that I'm surprised, but I thought it was going to be a little bit more, I don't know, close, maybe.
Copium.
Not that big gap, even with Checo. Even Checo on the pen told us that he has some issues they have to manage, and that's why it's a 22 seconds gap between them. But I was expecting a little bit more about the rivals of Red Bull.
Well, let's deal.
Yeah, the Copium of Mercedes, they will one day be good again. Yeah. Let's see about that. It will maybe. I mean, that's interesting thing is you could remember said that if Lewis Hamilton was still in the team, but he's leaving for Ferrari. So remember, this is actually 2025 is the end for Mercedes. They will never be better than whatever they will be.
With Red Bull first of all, and we're going to hear from race winner Max Verstappen and second place Sergio Perez right now.
I think today was probably better than expected. The thing that changed was the wind and the intensity of it. So I just had a better feeling with the car, and I could look after my tires quite well at the same time. So that was very positive. Probably a bit more how it was in testing as well. I just felt very comfortable with the car, and yeah, that really showed today. So yeah, very happy to kickstart the season like this, but also as a team, you know, to have a 1-2 is just.
Kick Sauber stake. Is that they decided because he will be leaving Red Bull to stake Kick Sauber F1 team?
Fantastic, but I also think that in general other teams are closer. I just think that today everything just worked really, really well, and I of course don't expect that to happen every single Grand Prix in the near future. So we take it.
I would say, I mean, Charles Leclerc surely could win some races this year, and maybe London Norris also. So if you say 5-6 races go to other people, he will only win 17 races more. High.
We look back at it, of course, we analyze it, and we'll try to improve further.
Well, let's throw it forward to the next race. How much confidence do you have going into Saudi Arabia?
Yeah, it's a completely different track layout, a lot more high-speed corners. The tarmac, of course, completely different to what it is here, so less degradation.
Playground.
Naturally, probably that will help other teams as well compared to us. It seems like for us always it's better to have these kind of tracks, so I don't expect that to be easy.
All right, well, very well done today. Thank you, Max. Checo, coming to you. Great race from 5th on the grid. Just how satisfied are you with your progress?
Yeah, I think starting from P5, it's always nice to make good progress. There was a lot of battles on track, which around this place is you just go into a very different strategy once that happens. You know, you are sliding a lot more on traffic, and I think overall it's a very good team result. You know, he was quite close with the Ferraris, with the Mercs early on. We were fighting with the DRS, obviously being a lap earlier. It just changes a few things out there.
How comfortable are you in the RB20?
Not at all.
Yeah, I think today was a very nice surprise. We were expecting the people around us to be a lot stronger. This is probably the worst place for degradation, so I think the better it is, the closer it will get. So Jeddah will be a very different challenge, so it will be interesting to see where we are there.
Damon, I feel that he was cruising for most of that race, Max was. Would you agree?
I think he felt like he was cruising. I think Checo was probably trying.
Cruising was Saturday driving, Sunday driving maybe.
Catch him, but not getting anywhere near.
Well,
and definitely it was well managed. It's well under control from the almost the first few corners. Got a little bit of a threat there from behind, but not enough really to worry about. So he managed that race beautifully, and he seemed hardly puffed at all at the end, didn't he, really? I mean, it was too easy.
He actually said in the press conference afterwards that this year's car has a pretty similar feeling to last year's, only a bit better.
Oh dear. Okay, so well, I mean, this is the Grand Slam. You were explaining to me. I thought Grand Slam was just pole position, fastest lap, and win the race, but actually, it's leading every lap. Is the Grand Slam, and he's he's fifth on that scale or something like that. So another statistic added to his incredible tally. Was it 55 Grand Prix victories now? I mean, he's only 26 and
18 of the last 19 races.
Astonishing statistics, and it keeps coming. But where is the challenge going to come from? Somebody has to stop him. These things can't last forever. We want to see some racing at the sharp end.
Damon, let's bring in our South American correspondent to discuss that, right? If the RB20 is as dominant as it looked today. Now, I know this track lends itself to a car like that because it's rear limited, it's an abrasive surface, and it really looks after its tyres. Has Checo got what it takes this year? Are you seeing a different Checo?
I am seeing a different Checo, and he have to believe that.
Let's talk about Perez. I mean, skip
and
that.
I think he's.
I mean, he could be. Okay, I believe in Charles Leclerc, and Norris will be closer to the championship fight with Max Verstappen, but Perez will probably not far off that.
He's believing that. He have to believe in himself and then see how he can cope with the car. You know, the engineering. He have already been 3 years with Hugh and Bird, and I think now they're getting a little bit more in connection. Max with Giampiero, they've been here for ages. And also Checo, if this car is, he's mentioned in the pen to us that this car is very similar to last year, but they have to do a little tweaks, you know, and set up. And I think maybe we're going to Jeddah, where he had 2 poles and a win from last year, and he feels very, very strong in that track. If in that track, Checo cannot fight for the win, and Max gives a big advantage, maybe we're going to see a different story. But I think he's hoping for that.
If Max dominates in Jeddah, which we think is a Checo-type track, that's going to be a sort of double whammy, a double blow for Checo, isn't it?
Yeah, that's why. I mean, he's expecting perform very well on Jeddah. Let's see what happens next week. I asked Max, you're very serious, you're not like enjoy, you know, the Grand Slam. And he say, well, I'm very focused because this is a long championship, and I think we overperform and some teams underperform. You know, they didn't get it right for this strike. And maybe I don't think
hopefully Mercedes never get it right.
Knows more, but I don't think this car is going to be track dependent. But another cars, yes, and maybe the fight is going to be a little bit tighter. Not that big gap between, I don't know, Mercedes 46 seconds is ridiculous. No?
Can you remember how you felt, Damon, after the first race of 1996 in Melbourne? Williams had dominated. I'm guessing that's the vibe that is permeating through Red Bull right now.
Well, we had a little bit of a race in that particular one. I had Jack, who qualified on pole, and Jack Villeneuve, and I had a watching brief of him during the race, so I was sitting on his gearbox watching, seeing what he was doing, seeing for a safe place to pass, and he gave me an opportunity when he went off the road, and then he started leaking oil and had to pull over. So it wasn't quite it looked closer from the outside than this did with Checo behind him, and for a long time it was a Ferrari chasing him. At one point it was even George Russell, wasn't it? So I think that was a slight different thing. But yes, it's nice when you got a 1-2 to start off your season and your Constructors' Championship. So the team feel great. It's always a funny thing is though, it's quite difficult to get that striving emotion, because when you come second or you get beaten, you so don't like it. You want to change that situation. Yeah, there's a lot of motivation to change. Whereas when you win, you kind of, I know that they will be trying still very hard to find improvements and gains, because they'll have to. But at the same time, where's the motivation? The only motivation is that you're going to be caught, and if you're looking over your shoulder and you can't see anyone that's going to catch you, then you can almost go on holiday.
Well, and the way that RB20 looked after the soft tyre in that final stint on both cars, I thought it was really telling. The gap between Checo on the soft and Carlos Sainz on the hard. We were all waiting for Carlos to close, and it never happened.
No, even the team told him the hard tyre will come alive and the soft tyre will go down, and nothing happened. But, well, it's promising. I say, Checo have some issues, but finishing 3 half a second behind a Red Bull is not bad for Ferrari. And in the pre-test, the season here, Carlos did a fantastic long runs with that tire, and he was perfect in that scenario. But I think, I hope. What Tom, if Charles didn't have that issue with the brakes, at the beginning of the race, he was pushing, and he was obviously blocking and everything. But with this new rule of the second lap open the DRS, maybe it was a little chance. But Charles was all over the place, I don't know. It's different when you lead, and Damon just explained it. When you lead and get the lead with that car, but if you have some trouble and somebody makes your life different, maybe it will be maybe the same outcome, but the race will be a little bit more entertainment.
They'll be slightly crestfallen, I think, Ferrari, because I was talking to one of their information people who give information to the public. I won't mention any names. And they were saying, yes, we're very confident of our race pace. We really think we can take the fight to Max. It all fell apart a little bit, partly with the brake problems. But, I mean, Carlos got through and was charging as hard as he could and couldn't really crack them. So,
guys, let's throw it forward to just a week from now, or less than a week. We're in Saudi Arabia. The tarmac is much smoother and less abrasive.
Yeah.
Leclerc win.
Is that going to bring Ferrari closer to Red Bull?
Well, I mean, a car that is designed for a...
Oh my God. And then we have this word then, closer. Will they be closer? Of course they will. But this is that 0.01 second closer? Then it doesn't even matter. You can be so much more closer. So, I mean, like 2 years of Mercedes are getting closer. Oh yeah. I mean, they have. And how much is that? Nothing. Okay.
Championship will work on all surfaces. It's like one of those cleaning products. It cleans all surfaces. It will. Doesn't matter what you throw at it. It's good. Sure, there's subtle differences between each track they go to. We were talking to Lando and Oscar with the McLaren. They were saying that they've done quite well for them here. They're not normally as competitive as their car tends not to work. It's amazing how a characteristic of a car can last for decades. But anyway, they're not normally as good here. They are looking forward to a slipperier track where they run less downforce, someone like Jeddah next week. So we'll see how they go next week.
And I think we should give a quick word to Adrian Newey.
I mean, he's there in the mix, and of course Max has made taken pains to mention that it's not just Adrian, that there's all kinds of fantastic people there in the team, and they haven't turned around to him and said, Adrian, listen, we're paying you far too much money, and we don't really need you, so do you mind leaving? They haven't said that, have they?
Did you see in the test there was a number of times where he was lying underneath the car, because I think Checo had been over a curb, and he's still getting right in there, isn't he?
Incredible. That, I think, is the highlight of the preseason test. Now, going down the car, watching himself, and always with that the book or the whatever, how do you call them, the booklet he have always under the arm, and observing every single car, not only the first cars. He goes down to the grid and keeps taking notes and everything. It's something amazing, and that face when he was watching Max, like, wow, well, what a car I build and what a driver we have.
They're just dawdles in there, you know that. They're just scribbles. He hasn't have it. He just likes to carry it to impress everyone. It's not. There's actually nothing in there. You want to stop him on the grid and say, "Come on, let's take a look."
Maybe, if people get to see what is writing down, maybe it is. I mean, the news will go to him than what Christian Horner are doing. Who knows? Maybe he's writing down a lot of stuff that is not allowed.
Look, do you think he'll get a quiet satisfaction that he and his team at Red Bull have made, in a way, the Mercedes concept of the last 2 years work when they couldn't? Everyone in Formula One is so competitive, aren't they?
I mean, absolutely. You can throw a set of regulations at Adrian, and he will see a creation.
Särla tillverkas ansvarsfullt, nära dig. Särla, smart val.
こんにちは、司令官先輩。一人ぼっちで寂しいの？なら、アニメファンや最強軍用機での激カワバトルを愛するすべての人に送る夢のゲーム、ウォーサンダーをダウンロードしよう。胸がドキドキしてきたでしょ？このゲームでは輝かしい勝利を飾ると、私や他のワイフの萌え萌え抱き枕が楽しめちゃうの。私と一緒に戦車、航空機、ヘリコプター、艦船を操縦して驚きの大冒険に繰り出そう。アニメスキンをダウンロードして超可愛いアニメデカールで戦車を飾って自分の車両を史上最強にキュートにしちゃえ。ウォーサンダーのバトルは大好きなアニメのように生き生きとしてダイナミック。特に自分の車両が愛する 2D 少女たちで装飾されたらたまらない。柔らかくてあったかくて愛らしい私の抱き枕をギュッとしたいなら PC、プレイステーション、Xbox でウォーサンダーを今すぐ無料ダウンロードしてね。にゃん。
So, PlayStation. Do we have anything
within all the gaps of that regulation? Okay, we want you're going to define the height of it, the width of it, and he will just somehow. Now I'm giving Adrian all the credit again, but the fact of the matter is, that's his genius is spotting where they haven't actually covered the thing that he wants to include, and they haven't prevented him from doing it. And if they tried, then he'll find a way to get to the place he wants to get to within those regulations. And it's subtle. It takes a kind of 3D vision to be able to do that.
And the fact that he's been in Formula One for so long, and as from a time when one guy would design the whole car, does that help him now that we're in an era where everything is so much more compartmentalized? You get suspension guys who specialize in suspension, you get front wing guys who specialize on the front wing, whereas Adrian sees the whole thing.
Yes, he can make a car from the bottom up. I mean, he understands the manufacturing process. He understands how to install and what parameters he can give to the engine manufacturer, the power unit people, because he can say, that's all very well, but can you please make that 2 centimeters smaller and weigh 10 kilos less, and squeeze it into this time.
Ooh. He maybe use some bad wording when he think about when people should do stuff for him, because they are maybe
a little spot that I've left in the car to put on an engine. So yeah, I mean that's the thing. He pushes people to get
pushes people. Sounds like a bad working environment. Maybe he will also get the problems with someone from the Red Bull team, like Christian Horner.
Get better, and they won't want to. They will go. I mean, they would. In the old days, you remember that Honda would produce a V12 engine, and they go, here's your engine, and everyone look at it and go, bloody hell, it's massive. Excuse my French, sorry. I mean, it's a you know, that's massive. Now we've just got to make a car that can handle that much weight, you know. So he does the whole concept, suspension, and when he started, a bit like Gordon Murray, they had to design a car with they had to with a pencil draw the suspension and manage the whole design department. So you need to be able to unite all those different departments. Someone needs to understand that it's no good having the suspension people go and do their job and go, oh, it's not the suspension, because we made a great job of the suspension, and they haven't talked to the aero department, or they haven't talked to the engine department, or the gearbox department. So it's a whole thing. It's a holistic thing. You can't separate out the bits. They all have to make sense to the other bits.
For everybody, even, Enrique Scalabroni, he works obviously in Williams and in Ferrari. He's, since 20 years ago, he's saying he's the genius. Nobody's going to be like him ever. And you see the best engineers here in Formula One have the best engineers, computers and everything, and he's still drawing in the board and doing everything, the concept going through him. Incredible.
Talking of that man, Adrian Newey, you're with me now. Just what an amazing day for Red Bull. Another 1-2.
Yeah, it has. I mean, we felt the test seemed to go well. You never quite know, because it's, fuel loads, engine modes, tyre condition, time of the day. It's quite difficult to judge it to the last little bit. And then, to be perfectly honest, through the first 2 days, we were struggling a little bit. We got kind of getting better by qualifying, but we weren't as happy with the car as we were at the test. And then, obviously, today it all came together.
How much, I don't know if paranoia is the right word, but after testing, when it cleared...
For British fans, you should be really paranoid to see Max being top one again.
He went so well. What was the mood of the camp coming into this race?
Yeah, it always has to be trepidation. You can never take anything for granted. So there's the performance side, there's the reliability side, there's the strategy side. There's so many facets to trying to win a race. So you can never be complacent. You have to just try to keep pushing. And
how much of a departure is 20 over 19? It looks different, but from a philosophy point of view, was it a step into the unknown?
No, not at all. No, I mean the underlying architecture of the car is the third generation evolution of what started as RB18. Where we carry everything, apart from the radiators, they have changed, but apart from that, where we carry everything, the layout of the front suspension, the rear suspension, the gearbox, the casing, etc. That's just a third evolution. Well, it's a third evolution of RB18. The bits that are visible and have obviously caused quite a lot of attention. Obviously, we're pursuing aerodynamic gains there. The visual change is actually much larger than the performance change you get from that, and there are other much more subtle bits that people haven't noticed that are probably responsible for a bigger gain.
And you said that you started the Grand Prix weekend, it wasn't that smooth. So when you were putting the soft tyre on for that last stint, were you nervous, particularly with Checo, with Carlos only a couple of seconds back?
Well, like all of us, we all teams, and we kind of tried to do our homework and came to the conclusion that we felt with our car that it was best suited to one hard and two softs. Most other teams felt their car was better suited to two hards and one soft, and of course we had to make that decision really on Wednesday evening after FP2, because that sets what tyres you use in FP3. So we burnt a set of hards in FP3 to allow us to then carry a new set of softs into the race, and that's what we did.
Damon just described your cars as cleaning products, didn't he, Juan? He said they work on all surfaces.
That's very kind of him. It's a nice way of descriptive. That's what we've tried to achieve. We've tried to achieve is a car that is reasonably well suited to all circuits. I think typically last year the circuits that we had less of an advantage on were the maximum downforce street tracks. Singapore obviously famously made a bit of a mess of.
True. Singapore was
Underperformed
not a good race.
to what we could have achieved. I think we could have certainly achieved podiums there had we got our act together a bit better. But it's certainly true to say that those circuits are the ones that we probably have less advantage on. But as long as we're not disastrous on them, then maybe that's good enough.
And also, you never leave any details unattended, because Damon and us and me were surprised about you going down the car with Checo to check what happened with that drain cover. It's always like that. You are in everything.
Well, yeah, everybody is, but we try to encourage that sort of spirit within the team, that everybody should be curious, to keep their eyes open, and not necessarily be pigeonholed into just looking at one small area, but try to have a bit of a holistic approach, and so we have a very open policy within the team that we don't keep secrets between departments or anything like that. And personally, I think that helps to keep people feeling kind of involved and motivated and fresh.
Adrian, it's a sensational start to the year. Very well done to you and the team.
Thank you very much. No, the guys back in Milton Keynes, they don't get the television coverage, unfortunately, but they've really done an amazing job over the winter.
Jag tänkte bara säga att jag hade så himla kul med dig igår. Så tänkte mest kika om du vill komma hit nästa gång, kan jag fixa pass.
This is an advertisement from BetterHelp. Picture this. You wake up tomorrow and magically you've got an extra calling up. So why not Ash? In a way that we've coming to you now. Fourth in the opening race last year, third this year. Given everything that's happened to you over the winter, just how important is this podium?
I think it's just important to start the season well, start the season with a strong race, just not for my future, just for myself, because last year I spent a lot of the races, looking in my mirror, saving tires, defending my position. And I remember at the car launch saying, yeah, this year I wish we had a car to go racing, and attack people and don't care too much about the tires and make some overtaking moves and look forward rather than look backwards. And it's exactly what we got. I got an attacking race, really good race pace, and from there everything felt really good to finish P3. It wasn't a straightforward and an easy race, but yeah, I enjoyed it a lot.
Tell us more about those overtakes, and specifically the ones on Charles Leclerc, because from outside the car it looked very close. How did they feel inside the car?
It never felt close inside the car. Whenever I do a overtake on my teammate, I will always try and leave as much margin as possible, and I try and do it whenever I feel like I'm fully under control and I'm not putting any car at risk. And that's exactly what I did. I felt like a very good moves. And
yeah, sure, but why did you have to do that? Couldn't you just get past, or couldn't Leclerc just let you pass? Can it just be something like that? No, you must to fight. Sure.
Always keeping an eye on Charles and not making him also lose time or anything like that.
And just give us your thoughts on that final.
Nice. Don't waste so you don't lose time, but why the fight? I mean, come on.
What were you feeling at that moment in the race? Did you think P2 was on?
You guys need to consider that we've been testing here 3 days, and I've been seeing that Red Bull degradation on soft, and it's exactly the same as ours on the hard. So as soon as I knew Red Bull had a new soft for the last stint, and Checo had it, it's not like I went, okay, this is my chance. But I knew the Red Bulls today were going to be very, very difficult to beat, so to keep up with one of them and have the possibility to fight is already a good surprise. I think we're at one of their strongest tracks of the season with very high tire deck at the rear. Hopefully when we go to a more front limit.
If this was the strongest season, surely there will be more easier to win against them on the bad tracks. I mean, Singapore is still on, so.
The track and better tarmac, our car will come alive and we will be able to mount a better challenge on Max for the win.
So Carlos Sainz saying they knew Red Bull were going to be hard to beat. Did he expect the gap to be that big one?
Carlos was a little bit surprised about the gap. especially obviously with Max, not with Checo. He was very close and fighting with a Red Bull. That the highlight for him was at least trying to catch up a one Red Bull. But he was more happy about the performance of the car compared to last year, and saying that the car at least does what they want, not whatever the car wants. And I think he did a great job today. No, he was very calm. At some point we said, okay, we have again Monza, no, between Charles and
I thought
him.
it felt like that. He actually said, no, it wasn't close at all on track, but from the outside,
maybe. But it was well managed. And after that, obviously, with a little issue that Charles had, I think he did a great job. He better than that impossible. I mean, driving point. I don't know if Damon agrees, but he struck everything from that SF24. But I think it started much better than last year's car, and maybe they have that room to improve. Yeah, I think he was very happy. I can have the body language of the drivers. I know them very well because of the pen and all the interviews, and he was very satisfied.
How important was it for Carlos to put in a performance like that, given the winter he's had, the unsettling winter he's had?
Very important. You know, he's fighting to show that he's a commodity. He's a guy you'd like to have in your car at the sharp end. And there's a couple of places he wants to go. I would say that probably, I don't know if Red Bull is on his list. He's obviously qualified as a Red Bull driver originally, but you know, if Checo leaves, there may be a seat there. Or, you know, but would it be the right thing to do? Would Mercedes be the right place to go? Would it be? I mean, there is the problem with the fact that you're swapping drivers from Ferrari to Mercedes, and Mercedes would have to explain why they were taking a driver that has been thrown out in favour of the driver that they already had at Mercedes. But I think that he's what they're after.
Did they even say Audi? The fuck?
Mercedes is someone who can deliver at the sharp end in Formula 1, and he can do that. And also he's driven for a very big team in Ferrari, so he understands all those pressures. If you promote a young driver, they've got to learn about the team. They've got to learn about Formula 1. You can see Oscar with his enormous talent. You know, he's still learning, and I think that Carlos would be a strong candidate.
And still was better than Ricciardo.
For that place at Mercedes. You put Fernando in, you don't know how many more years he's going to go on for. I mean, he even started off the weekend saying, I don't know if I'll make my mind up in the next 3 weeks. He mentioned weeks, didn't he, or 3 races or something. Shoots pretty soon he's going to decide where he's going to carry on or not, because he didn't exactly say he's getting tired, but you know, he sort of alluded to the fact that this takes a lot out of you every year going racing.
Now, the pit stops at Ferrari were very good, very slick today, but I felt, there were the reliability issues. Both drivers complaining of brake issues, obviously affecting Charles.
Oh my God, it would be so funny hearing him talk about Lewis Hamilton.
More than Carlos. But also, there was that odd moment in qualifying in Q1 when they sent Charles out on a new set of softs that then compromised him going forward. And
this worries me. I mean, I see this a lot from Ferrari, and I think that Charles has to take control of this. It seems to me like this is where Carlos is...
Or do a better lap in the first place, so they don't have to gamble.
Seems to me a little bit more savvy in that he's aware of what's going on and he takes responsibility for things and challenges the team, whereas Charles seems to be waiting for it to be served up. You know, and then when they serve up the wrong thing, all he can do is say, oh, you served up the wrong thing, but his loyalty to the team is such that he doesn't want to criticize them.
Yeah, agree, because even he said on the radio, I don't agree with this. He went out and I think he jeopardized, well, because he told us with that scrub tire and the first out in Q3, when they put the new tires, the balance was completely different. And he was the fastest guy on the weekend, no? Because in Q2 he was the best time even than Max Pole. And I think that decision was bad for Charles, no, for the confidence, and it's always sometimes with Charles. No, I remember when they put in Brazil the Inter tires or rain tires, and everybody was with slicks, and it always comes to. I agree with Damon. No, they say no, let's do this. Or like George, no, first year in Mercedes, like giving a little bit on the team, and Charles maybe in that sense is a little bit more, I don't know, he calmed down, because first year with Sebastian was terrible, no, and the radio message and doing things as he wanted, but now it looks like he completely obeyed the team, and I think it's okay. But
why does he not take control of the situation? Because when you talk to him, he understands strategy. He understands. He's able to look at a race as a whole. So why does he let it happen? Is it a character flaw that he's just not? What would you say, Dan?
I think he's very polite.
I mean, no, but is that the thing?
He is very polite, not a person. I don't think
there's a polite way of saying no.
Yeah, I think they have to be firm. I mean, you know, there's the other end of the scale.
Maybe he will learn that from Lewis Hamilton, maybe.
It's Max who gives GP. He gives him absolute hell, but he's pumped up. Anyway, whatever. There's different ways to get your message across, and I think Carlos, in Ferrari, Carlos seems to be confident and sure that he's got his own plan he wants to implement, and he's happy to challenge Ferrari. With Charles, it's almost like they've got this protective ring around him, and they don't really. Charles hasn't actually twigged that actually he needs to be driving this. You know, all the great drivers took control of the team and made the team work for them.
And he's going to have to do that in 2025, because Lewis will certainly take control, won't he? Let's look down the road, guys. Do we think Ferrari will win more races this year than they did in 2023? Yes. You know, that's that sole victory for Carlos Sainz in Singapore. Do we think they're going to be a more consistent threat from what we've seen in testing and at this first race?
Maybe, yeah. And racetracks like Baku or Monaco, they are very good in slow speed corners. We faster than Red Bull at least.
They are good. Charles Leclerc is good in that kind of environment. So yes,
in this kind of track, and the tracks where Charles Leclerc feels very confident. You know, this is one of Charles' favorite tracks also. But in Baku, Monaco, I think they have a little chance to win more races than last year, because if they are happier with this new car than they were last year, and they were able at least to win a race, I think yeah. But we never know the roof that Red Bull have. Maybe this new concept gives them more advantage, or maybe not. And the other ones that copy the concept of Red Bull can extract more of them. Difficult, but not impossible. But maybe it's more a hope than a reality. And I think everybody wants at least Ferrari or another team. You know, we never expect that they're going to win with a W13, and they did it in Brazil, no? And there was a very good win. And after that, they never won a race. But Lewis had a pole in a racetrack that he loves, like in Hungaroring. And I don't know. I think
and then he lost position right
well,
after the start.
Let's move it on to Mercedes, guys. I mean, Russell P5, Lewis P7.
Herrgård, präst eller grevé, vilken ostklassiker är du?
Yes Max Power, vårt tuffaste diskmedel mot fett för att enkelt tackla intorkade matrester som de här. Skrubba 4 gånger mindre jämfört med det näst bästsäljande varumärket. Utan varmt vatten. För mindre tid vid disken och mer tid tillsammans. Yes Max Power, maximal diskkraft, minimal ansträngning. Jajamän!
I thought they surprised us in qualifying, particularly George Russell, but they also surprised us in the race from their lack of pace.
Yeah, George had a list of problems that he was explaining. Yeah, all sorts of problems, like braking overheat and having to wind back. He couldn't charge up his battery. He just went on and on. I mean, so that, you know, he didn't do too badly considering all those problems. And Lewis reckoned his setup was not suited for qualifying, and but that really hurt him in the race, because actually they didn't have enough pace to tackle the McLarens. And
yeah, he fixed his car for the race, and then it's still bad.
You know, he couldn't quite get past Lando and get himself further up. And
so the mood of George Russell after the race was probably quite positive then. I've still finished P5 and qualified P3, and despite having all these problems?
Possibly, I think that they might look at it as they've got more pace than they could exploit this weekend, and that if they fix those problems, then they'll be up there with Ferrari. But you'd have to say Ferrari are looking stronger right now.
Yeah, because Lewis has an issue also with the seat, and he's told us
they'll be up there with Ferrari. But you'd have to say Ferrari are looking stronger right now.
Yeah, because
För att he said Mercedes, och jag bara, no, säg småkopior.
Lewis has an issue also with the seat.
And
he's told us that when he was braking, the seat was moving, and also had to do a lot of change-ups and setups because of maybe the same issue that have George with lack of refrigeration in the car, and that has to cool down a little bit because they have the same warning and display that it was overheating the engine. Not in the case of Lewis, but yes, George. But considering that Lewis started 9th and finished 7th, just closing up a little bit on Lando Norris, and just 2 positions behind his teammate. He started 3rd. I think he was extremely, I never see him with that performance happy, and he went in the pen and smiling and very talking a lot. Lewis, when he don't have a good race.
Yeah, we know about it.
Hardly he can
depressing, but trying to be positive.
And say a couple of words. In this case, he explained a lot, and he said he have some hope for the next races, because this car is much better than last year. And George too. Let's see. It's going to be a nice fight to watch, Lewis and George.
Maybe he was looking at the pace of a Ferrari and chuckling to himself. Yeah, it's been a good start to the season. I mean, we'd like to have seen a much tighter race at the front, so there's a lot of work to do for the other teams to close that battle.
But Damon, I feel the demeanour of Lewis Hamilton this weekend has been a bit different, in that he spent more time in the paddock just hanging out. It's almost like he said to himself, I am going to enjoy this last season at Mercedes, and I'm going to chat to people in the paddock and just hang out a bit, and I'm going to qualify 9th because I've got the wrong setup on my car, but I'm not going to get down about it, and I'm going to have a...
Do you remember when he'd sewn up the championship, beat Nico, and then Nico won the next, how many it was, 3 races, and then won the championship the following year? You cannot afford to back off too much. I think, Lewis has got an abundance of talent. He could probably, turn it on when he wants to, whenever he wants to. It'll always be there, but it won't. That's the problem. It won't always be there because he's getting on a bit, and so, there is an element of, I hope he doesn't slack off too much this year. He needs to really this year establish everything about him. If there's opportunities, and I know he'll do it, but if he needs to not get out qualified by George every race, he needs to get up there and get the best results for Mercedes and then leave.
But he can't, it's washed. If it was good, maybe he could do that.
With a spring in his step. And so that the challenge is still there. He might have been come in here quite relaxed, but he does tend to start a season quite relaxed, and then he just turns it up
as the season goes on. After the summer break, he comes back a little bit more angry,
and the poor old teammates get ground into the dirt. So we'll see. Tom, I have to shoot. Aeroplanes to catch. It's been great chatting on the F1 Nation again. This is a brilliant first race. I wish it was a bit warmer, but I have to get back, and I'm not going to Jeddah, so enjoy that one. But you'll see me in Australia.
So Juan, the champ's gone. What do you make of McLaren? I mean, the first time they've scored points in the opening race since 2021.
And as the driver said, this track is not their favorite track for them. Even
so, first Lando Norris win hype is not copium.
Owners of the team, most of the shareholders of the team are from Bahrain, but I think they were very happy with this start of the season compared to last year. I think last year was very bad for McLaren, and they anticipated before even the season started. Sorry, because Andres Stella say, we have a lot of work to do, and they did a great job after the summer break, and they were one of the teams that scored more points. And if they have this start like this, if they can perform like they did last year, I mean, with upgrades and going faster and faster, I think we have a very good team and two great drivers, no?
Certainly two great drivers. I don't think they can bank on making
Lando Norris, Oscar Piastri, P1 and 2, or 1-2. Wouldn't that be amazing?
The same progress this year that they did last year? Because that was incredible what we saw from Austria onwards, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if they're going to have that big advantage, because maybe if they do that with a good start, they will be faster than the Red Bulls. That's the aim, obviously, for every single team. But I think it's a good starting point, and if they can't keep up with, because Mercedes is going to be strong, I'm sure.
Surely, not at all a lot of copium. Surely Mercedes will be good this year, after 2 years of being bad.
Because they show up a little bit. Maybe they, as we mentioned before, they have some issues with some problems. But I think if they can cope with the upgrades and every single piece they put in the car and goes in the right direction, like Red Bull does, like Adrian Newey does, they don't never make a mistake.
Except 2022 car that they kept for 2023, and now they actually have a good car. Wow. They never make mistakes. Yeah, Toto Wolff said that also. Or Lewis Hamilton said that. His team never makes mistakes.
Will be one of the teams to fight at least for a win. Like they did in Qatar with a sprint race with pole and win from Oscar. We don't know which driver will bring the win.
There's one interesting thing with Norris in that he didn't get the maximum out of the car.
Did they talk about McLaren Mercedes?
Like Red Bull does, like Adrian Newey does. They don't never make a mistake.
Alltså, jag trodde inte jag behövde Swiffer. Tills jag såg hur lätt den plockade upp mitt hår varje gång jag torkat det. Wow! Den fångar till och med hans hår på någon minut. Kolla här! Och till damm har jag bästa dammvippan. Den fångar och håller kvar dammet utan att lyfta en enda pryl. Swiffer, så rent, så enkelt.
Go away.
A very good team and two great drivers, no?
Certainly two great drivers. I don't think they can bank on making the same progress this year that they did last year. Because that was incredible what we saw from Austria onwards, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if they're going to have that big advantage,
so
because maybe if they do that with a good start, they will be faster than the Red Bulls. That's the aim, obviously, for every single team. But I think it's a good starting point, and if they can't keep up with, because Mercedes is going to be strong, I think.
Okay, there we have Mercedes.
They show a little bit. Maybe they.
There we have the Mercedes stock. That's copium.
As we mentioned before, they have some issues with some problems, but I think if they can cope with the upgrades and every single piece they put in the car and goes in the right direction, like Red Bull does, like Adrian Newey does, they don't never make a mistake. It will be one of the teams to fight at least for a win. Like they did in Qatar with a sprint race with pole and win from Oscar. We don't know which driver will bring the win.
There's one interesting thing with Norris in that he didn't get the maximum out of the car in qualifying again, and we saw that a lot in the second half of last year because he's such a good driver. Yeah, you mentioned Qatar, and that's why I thought of it, because Qatar was one of the instances where he made a mistake in Q3, and he did the same here.
And at least he's sincere. Like he said, okay, it's my fault, the car is fantastic, I am the bad driver, maybe exaggerating. But yeah, yesterday in the first sector, he blew it up, and he mentioned that without that mistake, maybe he was for P2. It's kind of sometimes Charles or even George, like today, he did a little mistake, and they're young drivers with experience, but they still love to develop, and sometimes the car doesn't help. No, it's not like Max, he's a mega star, but also the car is a mega star. But I think Lando will get it.
Of course he will. He's too good not to. But it's interesting that it's sort of carried on in that similar vein at this first race. So throttle it back. Almost need to take one step back to then progress, don't you? It happens so often in life. But what about Aston Martin then? Because Alonso was cock-a-hoop after qualifying, wasn't he? He was so pleased. He thought he'd outperform the car to be P6. And then I was surprised. I thought their race pace would be better.
Yeah, and he was not in the same mood like yesterday. No, obviously, because yesterday he was encouraging and say, okay, wow, where we are, and then he thought in the race they will be much better than the reality, because yesterday he was even thinking of going forward, not backwards, and then he said, okay, we are the 15, you know, and if we are the 15, we have to be 9th and 10th, how we did. And I think he lifted a little bit that emotion because I told him, I asked him if last year they started very well and then they went a little bit down, if this occasion can be like McLaren we were talking about, if they start in this point and they can go up. And he said, yeah, maybe it's the case because this car has potential, much more room to improve. The other one maybe start very fast, and then we make some upgrades that didn't work, and we lost a little bit the ground. And I think if is that the case, a McLaren case, maybe Aston Martin will be also by mid-season or after the summer break fighting for that 33 win that he is a little bit not in the best moment now.
Can you explain one thing to me? I saw Lance Stroll at the back on lap 1 after he was tagged by Nico Hülkenberg, and he then turned up in P10 at the flag. How did he do that?
Yeah. Well, first of all, he was out of sequence, with the strategy, and maybe that helped him in some part of the race because he had to stop earlier, and he was building up with good speed until one point. Obviously, Fernando with better tires, he overtook him, but it's not a big change for the team, 9 or 10, whatever driver it is. But I think he did a very good race, like he did last year. For me, one of the best races for Lance Stroll was last year at this time with a broken wrist, suffering and even fighting for big points. And that's why, I mean, maybe also this track and the
So he will be bad after the summer break.
I don't know what's it's missing on Lance, maybe to be a little bit closer in qualifying to Fernando, because sometimes he is, and then in the moment he have to perform, like in Q2 or Q3, he loses a little bit, but well, it's against one of the greatest.
That was going to be my offering to this bit of the conversation, is that you are comparing him to one of the greatest. If we now look at what I call any other business, what stood out for you this weekend when we look at the other teams?
Alpine. Wow, it's been a very difficult weekend and pre-test for them. I hope they have the chance to with upgrades. Ocon was good from him, from Esteban, at one point in the radio saying, okay, doesn't matter, it's not the end of the war, we're gonna bounce back.
That's a lot of Copian talk.
We have to fight and encouraging the team. By the other side, Pierre may be a little bit more upset because they were almost the last team, and that's why it's weird, because they were, if we go 2 years ago, they were maybe with Fernando, they were fighting for podiums. Remember with Esteban, they won a race, and I think with all the changes, with Otmar Safnauer leaving the team, and with Bruno Famen getting on charge, it was big changes, and maybe that takes time in the process that you have to build the car from this year, and maybe that affects that development from this 2024 car. If you see it, it's not a car that you say, wow, what lines, or even surprise you, but I don't know.
A lot of people believing that it's up to 10 kilos. That alone is 0.3 every lap, and then they hold their hand up and say that the power unit, is the least powerful on the grid. They admit that. So the combination of everything is just adding up. And It's going to be a long season, I feel, particularly as this is a sort of 2-year campaign, because when the 2026 aero regs open up on the 1st of January 2025, if you want to hit the ground running in 26, you're going to have to focus the wind tunnel on 2026. So what does Alpine do? They've got to progress really quickly with this car.
Yeah, they have to get all the resources for the new rules in 2026. If they can, I think they have the team and the engineers to do a turnover, try to be better. They're not going to be fighting for podiums. I think it's maybe not in the short term, maybe in the long term, maybe they can do it. But it must be frustrating for both drivers and also for the team.
Well, Juan, I feel we've almost reached the end of the show.
What?
If I say the words Nico Hülkenberg to you.
Well, Nico, incredible, no? Because last year he qualified 10th. After being out of Formula 1 for 3 years, even he had 5 races, or he was the perfect reserve driver for all the teams, not only for... he was the driver who everybody wants to have in the team. And he was so enthusiastic and happy to be back in Formula 1 with a seat for the whole year. And he qualified here 10th, and he ran over Lance, no? And he was maybe a little bit optimistic in that situation, but he had to try, no? Because it was a good starting point, 10th. And yesterday we were commentating, and I was sitting next to Gunther Steiner. And when Nico qualified for 10th, I say to him, "Wow, what do you think about this?" He say, "He did the same last year. He liked a lot the track, and he feels very comfortable in this track." And that's why, I mean, it was a good performance. I hope that Haas can keep with that, improving the race pace, because at one lap they were always there.
But what about your driver of the day? We didn't manage to ask Damon because he had to run for the plane, but who would you say?
Well, I have to go with the obvious, because Max did everything perfect. I know, but he have the same car that Checo have. I mean, I can agree with Carlos, because he had a very, as I mentioned at the first when we talk about Ferrari, and he have a very, very intelligent race, good pace. He makes the right moves. He great overtakes. I mean, he deserved it, and we know that people picks the driver of the day. Well, let's not pick a Max again. But if you go to the reality, Max didn't put a feet wrong. The team also with great stop, a big advantage over Checo. Even Checo have some issues. And for me, it will be Max Verstappen.
Very interesting what you're saying about Carlos, because I love the way you use the word intelligent, because we don't have to look.
Testa detta hemma.
True.
Too far back to Singapore.
It's one of the best performances when we were realized in the transmission that he was giving the DRS on purpose. I mean, even the team was asking him, watch out.
I've got this. I've got this.
He got it.
I think if I were Mercedes or Red Bull or any team that has a potential space, you have to consider Carlos Sainz, because I think he's grown as a driver in the last 12 months hugely.
I mean, many people say Carlos Sainz is up there. I mean, not the top. I'm not sure he's a good driver, but I mean, good enough to maybe be in the top. Probably not. He probably just have a Sergio Perez.
Because remember last year, no? It was the second year in Ferrari. Charles, we know that it's the driver with more poles and less wins, maybe. And he's so fast at one lap. And he always was 2-3 tenths. And he told me once, I know where I have to work to close the gap with Charles. I know the direction I have to take. And he did it. And he stick on that direction. And he closed up, even beat him with pole positions and in a race, the only driver to win a race. And I think he's a very smart driver.
Yeah,
and if I am a team principal, of course, I will, with all the drivers we have maybe available, because there's a lot of them without a contract, I will pick up Carlos' phone first and chat with Junior, because it's a driver to fill the seat. Is a chance, I don't know, Red Bull or whatever also, because remember they started together with Max and they were very close. I will call Carlos.
Well, Max is your driver of the day. Carlos is mine, and I'm going to give a mention in dispatches to Lance Stroll, because again, I still haven't quite worked out how he got from 20th on lap 1 to on a track where, you know, there were 0 retirements. It was a phenomenal performance by him. So well done, Lance. Well done to Max. Well done to Carlos Sainz and everybody else. So the top 10 looked like this. Max Verstappen took win number 55 and his second consecutive victory here at the Bahrain International Circuit. Sergio Perez was second and Carlos Sainz third. Then came Charles Leclerc with his brake problems in P4. George Russell was fifth with his power unit problems, and Lando Norris sixth in the lead McLaren. In seventh was Lewis Hamilton, who had battery issues. Then in eighth was Oscar Piastri. Ninth was the lead Aston Martin of Fernando Alonso. And in 10th, having come up from last on lap 1, Lance Stroll. The Drivers' Championship is, of course, the same as the top 10 finishing positions in the race. In the Constructors' Championship, Red Bull Racing already have 44 points at the top of the table. That was good enough for a P7 finish in 2023. Ferrari are second on 27 points, with Mercedes third on 16. In fourth come McLaren on 12, and Aston Martin are the last team with points at this stage with 3. And then, of course, in order, we have Sauber 6th, Haas 7th, RB 8th, Williams 9th, and Alpine 10th.
RB 8th. Well, let's see how this...
So thanks very much again to Damon and to Juan. And of course, we will be back with our review of the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix when F1 Academy will be getting underway as well. That's all next Monday. And remember, you can still get your tickets for the early races of the 2024 season, including the race in Jeddah on Saturday and in Australia 2 weeks after that. Just go to tickets.formula1.com. And why not check out F1 Beyond the Grid this week, where my guest is RB team principal Laurent Mekies. Thanks very much for listening, everybody. F1 Nation is produced by Formula 1 and Audio Boom Studios.
Yeah, sure. Where is it?
It works.
Okay, so now add. Let's see. Yes, and then you can see the drivers. Bottas don't have the team name. Tsunoda don't have the team name. Ricciardo don't have the team name. Jürgen Yu don't have the team name either. So they have not fixed it. Weird. Surely now is nothing more fun to watch. Quiet. No. I mean, we could maybe...
G'day.
G'day, mate. While I'm doing more of this. Let's see.
G'day. You probably know what the F1 drivers drive on track, but what do they drive at home? In this video, you're going to find out. Can you stop that?
So rude.
First up, let me start with Valtteri Bottas. He has a Mercedes A.
I menar, en bike probably.
AMG GT Black Series. He got this in August 2021. This is the car with the Mercedes stars on it, and there is one red star in amongst the lot. And of course, that is to celebrate the life of Niki Lauda. Valtteri lives in Monaco, which is some 4 hours away from the Monza track. So for the Italian Grand Prix, Valtteri has driven his car, I'm pretty sure, on 2 occasions. I've seen him getting out of it in the car park. What else does he have? An Alfa Romeo Stelvio Quadrifoglio. Those two I can definitely confirm. And then there are some rumours that he has an AMG 1. This is a stunning vehicle worth about $2.7 million US. David Coulthard has one, as does Mark Wahlberg. Has Lewis Hamilton bought an AMG 1? Well, he's bought 2. One for him and one for his father. And what would it typically cost to insure a vehicle of this value? Around $30,000 to $45,000 a year. Lewis, I don't think I've ever seen Lewis drive to the track. He always has his trainer, in the old days it was Angela Cullen, or his security people drive the car. And in fact, he's been quoted as saying he really doesn't like driving that much on public roads. Now, when I say he doesn't drive to the track, he does ride to the track occasionally on this, a magnificent Agusta Brutal 800 RR LH44. I've shot him at least twice arriving with this bike, once in Monaco and also in Austria, where he actually lit up the back tyres for the crowd at one point. Other cars in his stable, a Mercedes smart car. He has an AMG EQS and EQC, and it's also rumoured to have a 67 Ford Mustang Shelby GT500 and a Ferrari LaFerrari. That is quite a collection, but for a man that lives and breathes motorsport, you'd expect perhaps nothing less. Shall we go to one of the McLaren drivers? Yes, which one? Piastri, yes, Oscar Piastri. McLaren Artura in red. He received it from McLaren shortly after he joined the team. Is it a gift or does he own it? I don't know. Perhaps you might know, and if so, comments below, please. Just briefly, I often see Oscar Piastri with a suction mount on his windscreen when he drives into the track, and he has his phone mounted using the quad lock system on that suction mount. This is my quad lock case, and it uses a dual-stage locking system for a stronger, secure lock-on. The case also comes mag compatible and can be used with any of the mag heads for a smoother, easier lock-on. The thing I love about this are all the add-ons that fit on the back of this case, whether that be a car, boat, motorbike, or even just walking around.
Yeah, sure.
Another product I find extremely handy is the new suction base. This allows you to use a variety of Quadlock 360 products to mount your phone or even your camera on anything, which for someone like me, travelling the world, is pretty important. Another thing I love, a wallet that fits on the back, comes off easily, goes on easily. If you're interested in finding out more, there's a link in the description below. Click on that or head to quadlockcase.net. Next up is Daniel Ricciardo. Well, I've photographed him on a number of occasions arriving at the Silverstone circuit in his McLaren 720S, a beautiful soft top, and back in Australia he owns a Porsche GT3. Now this car I used to race against in certain Targa events. It was owned by a prominent Perth lawyer before he sold it to Daniel. And what else does Daniel have? A Hilux Ute. Well, for those of you in the US, it's probably a truck. And he doesn't just keep that for the farm. I have seen him driving it on the freeway in Perth. Does his teammate own a car? And I should say there is one driver in this lot of 20 that does not have a private car. Hang around to find out who that is. But it is not Yuki Tsunoda, because he indeed drives his Honda.
Who can not own a car? That's interesting. Maybe Kevin Magnusson or Hulkenberg. Let's see.
Honda NSX to a couple of races. Here he is arriving in Monza. Of course, Yuki is sponsored by Honda, so it comes as no surprise that he is driving one. Zhou Guanyu lives in the UK and drives a green Alfa Romeo Stelvio Quadrifoglio. Now this is the souped up version of the Stelvio, and it's a car that he and his teammate Valtteri Bottas are often seen arriving in at the tracks. I'm going through these drivers in no particular order, and next on my list is Esteban Ocon. I did see a report that he owned an AMG GTR and a Merc 63 Edition 1. I couldn't confirm those. What I can confirm is he does own 2 Alpine A110s. And once again, driving for Alpine, you'd expect...
Does he drive Alpine off the track also? That must not be fun. Maybe you should get an Alpine tractor.
Expect him to be driving the company car. Nico Hulkenberg, I can tell you, has an electric smart car, and these are great for inner city driving, obviously. I've also spotted him driving a tractor, well, a very small one, with his daughter with him. And he does have a magnificent Pagani, the Pagani Huayra. It's 800 horsepower, does 0 to 100 in 3.3 seconds, and is a very sexy looking car. And I remember going back 2 years ago now in Austin, I pulled up at a fuel station in South Congress to see about 7 or 8 of these Paganis lining up to buy fuel. And I must admit I'd not seen one in person before, and it was an absolutely stunning sight to see. There is another driver in this group of 20 who says that is his dream car. I'll come to that in just a moment. Next up, Williams driver Alex Albon. I had a look at this article here, and I can tell you right now that he doesn't own any of those cars. He, in fact, owns 2 luxury German cars, but is rarely seen driving them. Let's jump to a Ferrari driver, Carlos Sainz, who only recently got his first Ferrari. It was a Ferrari 812 Competizione. He was previously driving a VW GTI that his parents bought him when he was 18. So that is a fair step up. And what of his teammate? Well, his teammate Charles Leclerc is often seen arriving at certain races in his black 488 Pista with the 488P number plates. It's all over the internet when he heads out in Monaco. Lots of videos posted, and he's not shy about the fact either. He's even got his number 16 on the car. And what is this car worth?
Nice.
Upwards of $300,000 US. But Charles also added a rare Ferrari 812 Competizione Aperta recently. There are only 589 others in existence. He was spotted outside the Monaco casino in this 6.5 litre V12, which is worth around £560,000. That's the price for a standard model, and that's one of the most expensive Ferraris on offer. But Charles would definitely have been customised, so it will be worth well north of that figure. World champion Max Verstappen has quite a...
And you can say just selling the car. I know it's Charles Leclerc that have had it. Can make its price go up really a lot.
A stable of cars, if this report is to be believed. A Renault Clio, a gift from his mum and dad.
What?
A Renault RS01 worth around 400 grand. That was his first purchase. A Porsche 911 GT3 RS. 4 Aston Martins, a DB11, the road-approved version of James Bond's car in the film Spectre. It's worth a couple of $100,000 and is fit with orange stitching, a nod to his home country. He also has a 2018 Vantage and a DBS Superleggera. But his crown jewel in the Aston Martin Red Bull collaboration is the Valkyrie hypercar. $2.7 million will get you one of those. Any more in his stable? Yeah, he's got a horse. A Ferrari, to be exact. This is a 488 Pista like Charles.
So
a Ferrari
cars.
Monza SP2. Where does he park these things? Oh, and he was also gifted a Honda NSX Type S by Honda. And for those of you new to the sport and didn't realise that Max Verstappen, when he came into the sport at the age of 17, didn't even have a driver's licence. He scored that on his 18th birthday. Kevin Magnussen, I can only find one associated with the Danish driver, and that is a Land Rover Discovery.
Okay, so
they're pretty handy cars here where I live.
Who's left then? Let's see. Lewis Hamilton, Bottas, Carlos Sainz, Charles Leclerc, Guanyu. Both Alpine drivers. No. Only Ocon. Gasly, I don't know we've talked about. Who can be left? I mean, that's surely owns a car. Logan Sargent maybe don't have a car.
Western Australia. And not too far from my house here in Lancelot are some magnificent sand dunes, and going back a number of years, I actually set, with a number of other people, a world record for the most number of cars in an off-road convoy. I managed to round up 449 people with their cars to come out to the dunes. Many of them would have been Land Rover Discoveries. And this is what it looked like when everyone parked up for the end of event Guinness World Record photo. I can tell you there were no Ferraris out there that day, but Lance Stroll has a number of them. Apparently a 63 Ferrari 250 GTO, a 58 Ferrari 250 Testarossa, and a 1967 Ferrari 330 P4. On top of that, a 96 McLaren F1 and a Ford GT. His family used to own a Ferrari dealership in Canada. One of the most remarkable cars owned by an F1 driver would have to be this McLaren Elva, and it belongs to Fernando Alonso.
Okay,
he also owns a LaFerrari, and as you can probably imagine, an Aston Martin. Which one? It is the DBX. And last year, Fernando took delivery of this Sunreef Power Echo catamaran. In Australia, it's interesting with cars, if you buy a car and sell it at a profit, there's typically not capital gains involved because the tax office doesn't honestly think of cars as appreciating assets. Typically, when you buy a car, it goes down in value. But when you're talking about cars of this level here, Porsche GT3s, McLaren Elvas and the like, those, as they become increasingly scarcer, tend to rise in value and become pretty good investments. Lando Norris recently sold one of his cars, a 72 Fiat 500. He put it up to auction. That was the first car he bought with his own money. And like Lando, it portrays a lot of character. Also in the stable of Lando cars, a McLaren GT that he drives to the track. And on top of that, he has a 765 LT Spider worth about double what the GT is worth. Oh, and a Lamborghini Miura. And Lando was the driver I alluded to earlier that said his dream car was a Pagani Zonda. Pierre Gasly's private cars? I found one report that listed an Aston Martin DBS Superleggera, an Aston Martin Vantage, an NC1 Honda NSX, a Porsche 911 and a McLaren 720S. I'm not sure that's 100% correct. Only 3 drivers left in this list of 20.
I mean, Perez surely owns a car. Can Russell maybe have skipped owning a car? That blir more logisk variant than Russell than Perez.
And one of them does not own a car. Shall I tell you now? Logan Sargent lives in London, doesn't need a car. Sergio Perez, on the other hand, loves them. Look at his collection, a Honda Civic Type R, a Bugatti $3 million car there. Apparently the services are about $25,000 to $30,000 each time. McLaren 720S worth about $1 million, a Mercedes-Benz AMG just shy of $800,000, a Porsche Panamera, a 4-seater luxury sedan, retails for around $300,000, and a BMW X7 that comes with a price tag of a couple of $100,000. And that leaves just one driver, George Russell. And I have him down as owning an AMG C63S. And this is a car that George will roll up to at the track in a lot around the world. Mercedes provide those cars to their drivers in the different cities, as it's great advertising for them to be seen rolling up in those cars at various tracks around the world. And finally, let me share with you what I think is one of the best looking cars I've ever seen in the driver's car park. It's not actually owned by a driver, it's owned by a team principal, well, a CEO of a company, and that's Zach Brown from McLaren. Twice I've seen him roll up in his very own McLaren Speedtail. This is a one-off supercar valued at over $2 million. It's a 4-litre twin-turbo V8 hybrid, boasts 1,000 brake horsepower, does 0 to 100 kilometres an hour in 2.5 seconds, and top speed, it says 250 miles per hour, which is F1 speeds. If you've enjoyed this video, please could you hit the like button, and if you love my F1 photos, go to kimellman.com where you can order my Best of 2023 photo book, hardcover, hard pages, stunning images delivered almost every country in the world. And for a whole host of extra merchandise and information and content, there you go. Thanks for watching and stay passionate.
No. Let's see.
Alex Albon doesn't need one. Lives in London. Not Alex Albon.
Oh, that's... What do you say? The No. What's it called? Mob Farm. The Mob Farm is going great. 5 mobs. Here we can put all the snow. Let's see, that's that.
Good.
Then I believe that's actually all the things that could be watched/listened to. Yeah, so just time for doing just the boring work. Finish off the shovel and then in case it will take more room. Okay, so it's just farming snow until the shovel is more done. Let's say it's one, maybe 3 dots, or 3 squares left on the shovel until I stop using it. For the safety, I will always have 1 red square left. There's no sound of digging. Let's see. Oh. Looks like it will need all the room. All the space for the snow. Two squares left. Let's see, Saudi Arabia will happen. Let's see, it was Tuesday, now it's Wednesday. So after this day, it's time for some Saudi Arabia watching. And it will be so fun to see Leclerc being with no problems and just being in the top. Hopefully that will happen. And hopefully Norris also will have a good race. P3 or at least P4. Oh, we're done. Let's see, fortune stuff. And then it's time for IndyCar. Will Alex Palou win like Max Verstappen? I mean, hopefully not. Who knows? Could happen. Come on, spider. Fall down. Or at least sing. Oh, God damn it. Come on. Oh my God. 1, 2, 3, 4. What can done have been? God damn it. Well, there will be a mystery for another day. Now it's time to go back and then we can end the stream. No. Here we have it. Let's see, then it's back to mining. Oh, this area. Oh, it's soon done. Oh shit. Just taking full damage. See, there's 3, 6, 9, 11 rows. Well, 11. Oh, do you call that 11 deep? So let's end it here. This will be what I will be doing tomorrow. Let's see what can happen tomorrow. Or tomorrow, today. Holy shit. Well, we'll see. I don't know. Will anything more news come from Formula 1? Will Max Verstappen actually go to Mercedes? Probably not. Yeah. But I will see tomorrow.